Welcome to the Jazz Notes Podcast. I'm Ben Anderson.
I'm Chandler Holt.
We are recording this on September 29th, which we've been talking about countdowns a lot. First, it was the countdown to Lottery Day, then it was the countdown to the draft, and then it was countdown to the beginning of training camp. And that is Media Day, and that is today. We were both over there earlier at the ZBBC, the Zions Bank Basketball Campus, listening to the Jazz players talk. I was lucky enough to be able to do my radio show down there, so we got to talk to a bunch of guys and kind of some one-on-ones, which was really cool. But is this your first in-person Media Day?
No, I went last year.
You went last year, okay.
Yeah.
It's always unique. They're always a little different. I mean, even this year was in a different spot than last year was.
Yep.
Like they kind of movie rooms, because they're always needing room for different stuff.
I actually went 2 years ago, too, because I asked Keontae, I remember, what game he was looking forward to, and he said Russell Westbrook.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it was 2 years. Yes, you've been for a few. And again, they're always different. The vibes are always different.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this had a good vibe.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
This was like a positive vibe year. And I think one of the reasons, and I'm not pinning it on these guys because these were good vibes guys.
Yes.
But like turning the page on John Collins and Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson, who I've told you is a personal favorite of mine, I think it's clear that like, and we will talk about some of the vets that are still here. Like the youth movement is it's fully here.
Yep.
You know, there's no more pretending that this is a team that's like, yeah, we're going to try and compete. Like, we're going to try and win 40 games. You're not.
Yeah.
You weren't last year. It's how you won 17 games. It was way harder to win 17 games last year with that talent than it would be most years with, you know,
yes,
a really young roster like they have this season. So you can kind of just tell it feels cleaner. I will say there was a real kind of, not emphasis, but you can tell everybody in the building is ready to turn the page on last season.
Absolutely.
Everybody hated last year. Fans, you hated last year. They hated last year. The players hated it. The coaches hated it. They have moved forward. They don't want to talk about last year. And look, some of it you can't get away from. It's part of your story. Mm-hmm. You guys wrote that chapter.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it. It's part of, there's going to be differences. If you were good this year, you're going to talk about, look at how much growth we made from last year. So they will play that card when they need to. But right now, everybody is sick of last season. I think they were happy to get the summer over with and move on to this year.
And here's what I think is interesting. I don't think the bad taste from last year, I don't think it's necessarily because of the win total. And you talk about, like, they wrote that chapter. I think why it is a bad taste is because it was kind of a forced chapter. You know what I mean? I feel like this year, everybody's free to go do their thing. Like, let's see what happens. You know what I mean? And even Keontae said this year feels a little different. And I think that was 100% the vibe around the whole building with everyone that went up to the stand.
So we will talk about every player that we talked to. Some of the people you talked to, I was not there. Like I didn't talk to Kyle Anderson at all today, so I'll rely on you for that. But we will kind of just walk through player by player. I'd like to get a full roster out of who was there and, you know, the 17 guys that are there plus the two-way guys. And we're not going to spend a ton of time on everybody. Elijah Harkless and, you know, Stephen Crowell. Don't need a ton of time, but we will go through them and kind of break down what we've heard. And let's start with Kevin Love. I thought Kevin Love was interesting, and I promise you, like I know everyone wants to talk about Ace. We will talk a lot about Ace.
Yes, we will get into Ace.
Let's just talk about Kevin Love because he is kind of the big new face. And I don't want to say abrasive, but like he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Like I guarantee you he's a lock Hall of Famer.
Yes.
No doubt about it. Won NBA championships, was a great college player, good international player with Team USA. He is going to be in the Hall of Fame at some point in his career. And the whole conversation, including what I'd heard even a couple of weeks ago. Now, I will tell you this personally. I'd not heard it from the Jazz. I'd not heard it from Kevin Love's people. But we all saw the reports. And Jake Fisher, who's really well tuned into this stuff, said buyout, buyout, buyout.
Yeah.
Shams had said buyout, buyout, buyout. And then I had kind of heard things a few weeks ago that like kind of expect him to be there today.
Yeah.
And we had mentioned how buyouts work, right? You let a guy go find a new team. The team says, yeah, we're going to give you $3 million. He goes back to the Jazz and says, they're going to give me $3 million. Let's figure out how to take that money out of my buyout. Jazz, you know, give him the 1.4 left, and he goes somewhere else. I don't know if another team didn't want him. I don't know if the other teams that wanted him were the Sacramento Kings and, you know, the, you know, dregs of the Eastern Conference, and he didn't want to go play there. So he just said, hey, man, I've got a house in Park City. Got a cool house in Park City. I know the area. I'm former friends with Lowry Markkinen. I don't want to say former friends. They're not enemies now, but they played together in Cleveland. They were in the same division. Lowry talked about that. So they know each other. It's like, this is not a bad spot for Kevin Love. And the Jazz will trade him this year if the opportunity presents itself. And I wouldn't even be surprised if they said, hey, man, like, we'll trade you if the right team comes along for you too. We will look out for what's best for you.
We talked about this before we started recording. I said that was one of the shocking things to me, just seeing him come out there in a Jazz jersey and like maybe behind Ace Bailey, he probably is the one who just seemed the happiest of anyone you saw today. He was smiling ear to ear. And you talked about maybe couldn't find a buyout. He just played 23 games last year. Mind you, he had some personal stuff, which he sort of dived into a little bit. But the message that from Kevin Love was basically like, I'm ready to start fresh. I'm ready to help however I am needed here at this next stop. I'm bought in. And he talked about how in the past he might have been pessimistic about a situation.
And
now,
forced his way out almost.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And now he's like bought in, which is great to hear, especially from a veteran.
Yeah, I think you got a positive early sign from Kevin Love that he's going to be a positive asset for the team.
Yes,
and I think that's probably what you want. So, not a whole lot there. You know, I mean, I don't expect him to play a huge role. To be honest with you, I don't think he's going to get a lot of minutes. If there is one, and I don't want to say this, it's almost maybe I just shouldn't even say anything about it, but like. So the reason he didn't play last year, and we've talked about that, is his dad died.
Yeah.
And he spent a lot of time away from the game with his dad, which is why he played like 23 or 29 games last year. If there is any silver lining, it's that he's healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At that age, every game you play is, a bigger chunk of how much you have left.
Yes.
So not playing last year and it not being because of his health, it was, emotional health, which is certainly a big part of it, and he's advocated for that. But it's not a physical toll on his body. I would imagine he actually comes in pretty fresh and is probably ready to play.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, like I think that's the message around Kevin Love, Hall of Famer, great veteran guy. Remains to be seen how much of an impact, if at all, that he has on the court for the Jazz. But especially with the attitude that he brought today, I'd say a great addition to the locker room.
Let's move down to the next players. Let's talk Keontae George.
Okay.
Keontae was another big name in the offseason. I've kind of talked about how I've heard that it's kind of tired of why they were okay with letting Colin Sexton go now. Keontae has been the quote-unquote MVP of the summer. I've had a few people tell me that independently. That dates back to June, and I didn't hear anything today that countered that.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of said, and we actually got to have a really cool interview on my show, Jake and Ben, with Keontae. We talked to him for probably 20 minutes, and I got a lot of texts from people being like, that Keontae interview was great. And I'm not patting myself on the back. People were really happy to hear from Keontae.
Yeah.
So if you haven't heard it, after you listen to this episode and our last 9 episodes in a row, go and listen to Keontae, because it'll be up on the podcast. Just search Jake and Ben and you'll find it. He has a real maturity about him. Keontae always comes off, and I think I even talked about this, he comes off a little too cool for school when you first start talking to him. And I think it's just a wall he has as a young person.
Yeah.
And then once you get past it, which he gives it up pretty quickly, he's great. And he's candid and he's open and he'll tell you honestly how he feels. And he gets it. Like, what's really cool about Keontae is he absolutely understands the position he's in this year, that this is make or break is probably a little extreme. But I said, hey, dude, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Nick Smith, Cam Whitmore, Kobe Buffkin, these are all your peers from your class. Those are guards from your class. I think all of them were drafted after him.
Yeah.
They've been cut, waived, traded. Some of them are out of the league and don't have a team at all. Some of them, the teams have basically given them away. Kobe Buffkin was a salary dump. I was like, you're at a point where guys in your draft class are not in the NBA anymore. And he's like, I know. He's like, I get it. I totally see it. It makes me really appreciate not just how much money can I make, where can I get the most points? It's fit. What's my role and your environment, and how important is that? And he says, thinking about Will Hardy and Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck and Ryan Smith and being in Utah and being in this building and being in this facility and having this opportunity is such a blessing to me. He just seems to understand that you are not owed this.
Yeah.
This is not a guarantee. This is every day is, fighting for survival, especially at this point where they've got to pick up a team option for your 4th year and make you a restricted free agent. Otherwise, you're just out in the wind. And there's not a huge desire for guards who shoot 39% from the floor. So he knows he, A, has to get better, but B, seems to have a real appreciation of where he is.
So you had your interview on your live show with Keontae, and I believe it was just me there when he did his media day. I will say my favorite moment from media day was in the Keontae interview.
Okay.
He went up and someone asked him, hey, Taylor Hendricks, he's back. You've been playing with him. He's back on the floor. He's from your draft class. How does that make you feel? And he got genuinely emotional. He said, I talked about this the other day and I started tearing up. And he was like, I am so happy for him. I've been with him every part of the road. And he I felt like I heard him starting to get emotional again when talking about it. And it was a big theme throughout the whole thing was the cohesion with this group and how Keontae took the guys to some of the guys to Dallas and how they've been working out together and they have this rapport. But then you can hear that, but then actually seeing emotion when talking about your
Right.
teammate is a little bit different. And I thought that was awesome.
I think that's been the key when you talk about like what does a good offseason for Keontae look like. It's getting it as an NBA player. It's taking on a leadership role. He was the one who organized all the activities in Dallas. He got everybody down there, made sure everybody was connected, and it sounds like he's playing well.
Yeah.
We will see.
Yes.
Playing well in the summer doesn't mean a whole lot.
Yeah.
We will see once he gets on the court. So the good news is that he's moving in the right direction.
Yes.
Elsewhere. And he was never in a bad spot. I promise you. Keontae's never been like a lone wolf. He's just like a little bit unique of a person. Like I've said, like he keeps his wall up. But once you talk to him, I've always thought he breaks it down really quickly and is very thoughtful. Continuing to buy into that and not getting paranoid or feeling like the league owes him something or realizing like, hey man, they're drafting other guys at your position because that's what Walt Clayton is.
Yep.
Like he's not mad at anybody. He's not getting defensive about it. He seems to actually be warming to the idea of like, we all got to play our role and that's what's going to be best for everybody.
Yeah.
Before we get into the other second-year players, let's get to Ace because let's be honest with you. As much as the Jazz want to turn the page on last year, you were rewarded with Ace Bailey.
Yes.
Because you had a 17-win season. Like the pain you went through, which was about getting a top 5 pick, was to get a player, and you didn't want to fall to 5, and you still got one of the guys who we thought was going to go 2 or 3. And Ace is in Utah, and the brightest green flag you could plant was the report last week that he had moved on from Omar Cooper, his agent. And I don't mean just that, because like there's a lot going into that. And I promise you, I said this last week on the show I did solo. More of those guys in the league have Omar Coopers than you realize. Now, generally, they don't disrupt the system as much as Omar did in the pre-draft process, not letting Ace work out for anybody.
Yeah.
But more players in the NBA have that guy than you realize. Like I will tell you, Lauri Markkanen's dad was that guy in Finland. If you don't know the story about Lauri played for like a bunch of teams in what would be high school or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they kept wanting to make him a center because he was probably 6'8" when he was 14 years old.
Yeah.
And his dad said, my son is going to have the ball in his hands, he's going to play on the perimeter, and he's going to shoot threes. It was like very great foresight, but like it was a guy who was probably in a way strong-arming coaches to say, if you want my kid, you're going to do it my way, not your way, which is exactly what Omar Cooper has done.
Yeah.
But my understanding is that's what Lauri's dad did. So I don't actually think what Omar did is that unique, and I'm not trying to paint him as a bad guy. I've honestly never met him. I've never talked to him. So I don't know anything about him. But when asked about it today, Ace, which you got to imagine, this is a 19-year-old kid having to answer for like why he essentially divorced himself from this man who's been around his family for 4 years, whatever it is, and put him in a successful spot. And that's the other thing. Like Omar's done a good job. Ace Bailey got drafted 5th overall.
Yeah.
Like he's going to make $40 million before he's out of the league, even if he's a total bust.
Yes.
This has been a hugely successful relationship. But Ace said, and here I tweeted out, let me make sure I try and get the quote accurate. I thought he was going to kind of dodge it or just say, hey, man, that's a personal decision. It's not really for me, or I don't really want to talk about it. He said, I feel like I just made the best decision to move forward to better me and my family in a position that way. Like he just like addressed it head on. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't hesitant about it. And here's the thing. I don't know if he does yet. There's kind of a rumor he's going to sign with Clutch. It's kind of the thing that's out there, but it sounds like there's some other people involved. I don't know if he got anyone coach him up on that or if that was pure Ace, but he answered it exactly right. He was confident about it. He was looking you in the eye. Andy Larson asked the question. He was staring right at him when he answered it. I thought it was such a good sign that he was prepared, that he knows why he did it. It wasn't like someone strong-armed him into doing it. It seemed like it was his decision. And he gets it like, hey, man, this is what we have to do now is be all in on improving our situation for me and for my family. I thought it was really promising.
Yeah. And Ace has this, I do not mean this in a negative way. He has sort of this kid-like energy.
You're not kidding. Yeah, it is a ton.
But I see what you're saying, the fact that like his answers are way more mature than you would expect to align with the energy that he gives off, which I think is like such a breath of fresh air. Like for the Jazz, which is what it sounded like, is so many people had positive things to say about Ace, but also just in general. Like you don't see that a lot, I feel like.
No, he is so high energy, positive energy, pretty beloved, magnanimous towards everyone around him in a great way. He's magnetic. One of the through lines through everybody I talked to today, and Oscar Sheboy said it, and Will Hardy said it, and Keontae George said it, and Isaiah Collier said it, and I think Kevin Love said it. everyone was just like, oh, dude, Ace's energy, he's just like so fun to be around. He's like funny, he's silly, but I think he's like a really hard worker. Like it seems like he's putting in the work. It seems like he's really taking it seriously, but he's just like great to be around, which again, this could have been a guy who had said 5, Utah, like A, I didn't go top 3, and B, I didn't go to Washington or Charlotte or what, not Charlotte, Brooklyn, like the cities that kind of seemed like they were trying to gear him towards. He could have absolutely come in with a terrible attitude, been miserable, and it sounds like it's been the entire opposite.
Yeah.
He just is thrilled to be on the court, loves basketball, everybody likes him, he's putting the energy back in. I get this feeling, I tweeted this out, if his play on the floor lives up to even half the hype of who he is, he's going to own the state of Utah.
Yeah.
Fans in Utah are going to eat him up the same way they ate up Donovan Mitchell. But this is a little less, my dad's a media member or, works for the New York Mets. And I actually thought Donovan was more sincere than people gave him credit for. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people think everything he did was very calculated and therefore a little bit conniving or not as authentic. I never really felt that way about Donovan, but I get why people would say it.
Yes.
There's none of that from Ace. This is so authentic. This is just a one-of-a-kind, cheerful, joyous, boisterous dude who, if it works on the court, I would just say, like, just enjoy the ride because it could be really, really fun.
Oh, yeah.
And beyond that, just kind of talking to some people on and off the record, there's just like a real excitement for the player that, like, there's a lot there to work with. Physically, skill-wise, it just feels like they are thrilled about what happened on draft night.
Yeah.
Thrilled that Ace Bailey fell into their lap.
Anything else about Ace? I think that encapsulates it pretty well.
No, man. I would go back and listen to his interview. Like you can go listen to all the interviews. All the interviews are good, I promise. And we've got them up at KSL Sports, and you can look up. You can look it up on our website. You can look it up on the podcast, and you can find all the interviews, even the ones that we didn't play on the air.
Yes.
I would really highly recommend you listen to Ace.
Yeah.
I would go listen to Ace. Not the one-on-one interview Jake and I did. We didn't talk to him. But really at the podium, he's just like holding court. And that's really unique from a 19-year-old. I thought it was really impressive.
Yes. He is one of the major reasons I am excited for this NBA season that is around the corner.
If you're a Jazz fan and you're like a little timid about it, I think I might give myself... I'm willing to get hurt again because of Ace Bailey. That might be the approach I would take.
All right, who next?
Let's go with Lowry. Lowry's the best player on the team.
Yes.
And that's still going to be the case. He just did everything right.
Yeah.
He was asked again about, you're going to be in trade rumors. Zach Lowe said he'd be shocked if a year from now you're on the team. I'm not sure I disagree with Zach Lowe.
Yeah. But
Lowry's just approaching it. He likes Utah. He's always liked being in Utah. He's been bought in since he's been here. He feels like he's coming off of a really good performance at Eurobasket, and he's right. Finished 4th overall in Finland. Was probably the 3rd or 4th best player in all of Eurobasket. It's all really, really promising stuff. It's a good sign for him.
But yeah, I feel like that was the main point. He was asked about the trade rumors, and he was just like, "I'm here. As long as I'm here, I love it here, and I'm grateful." And yeah, he was also asked about being like put into a leadership role, which is kind of interesting because last year, of course, there was John Collins, Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson. Like Jordan Clarkson isn't the most vocal person, but I would assume all 3 of those guys were maybe a bit more vocal than Lowry was. Mm-hmm. But now he doesn't have those guys. Like granted, you do have Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, some of these other guys, but you're now the most tenured vet, basically.
Yep.
Longest tenured vet, rather. So he is going to be in an interesting spot this year with the Jazz. But just talking about on the court, and we have prefaced this many times, I expect to see more like 2023 Lowry.
Yeah. I agree. I think that would certainly be the hope for the Jazz.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of the catch-22 for Lowry. Like, if he's that good, the Jazz are going to trade him.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of, I would think, if they can get the right offer back. But if he's playing at an all-star level at 7 feet tall, with the skill he does, it's so needed in the NBA, he will be a hot asset. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of great assets in the NBA, especially in the season. I don't know if you can get a Giannis trade done in the season. Yeah. All right, let's talk about the other big story, which is maybe the biggest negative that came out today.
Yes,
and
maybe the only negative.
Maybe the only negative.
Yeah.
And that's that Walker Kessler admitted he was frustrated about his contract situation.
Yeah, and that was definitely a shock. And like, of course, he came into the room.
Okay, so to preface this, I was downstairs doing my show. I was not in the room when he said this, so I'm curious to get the context because I think there's ways that I could have misread this just looking at the tweets alone.
Yes.
So tell me what happened.
So Walker comes into the room, and mind you, from the last 2 media days, I want to say I remember Walker just being like super bubbly dude. Like every time you talk to him, he just comes in and he like sort of saunters over. To me, he felt like he kind of slowly walked into the room. And then Sarah Todd from the Des News was sort of like, all right, let's get this out of the way. This is the sort of overhanging elephant in the room story. What's going on with the contract, she basically asked. And he was like, yeah, with this being media day, I expected this question. And also, I just want to say, after today, I don't want any more questions about it because I don't want it to be a distraction for me or the team.
Which I think is a good answer.
Which is good, yes. Yeah. And then he basically just said, I am a little bit frustrated by it. That was like that was his quote on being frustrated. That was about it. But then he got into, I love Utah, I love the fan base, love my teammates. But like we had talked about how it makes sense from the Jazz perspective to not extend him. And then we also sort of, I feel like in previous episodes, talked about what he would want and how he would respond to this. But yeah, it clearly is not aligning with him, and that makes sense. Like you want that security when you're in the NBA. And yeah, he just said he was frustrated by it.
Look, if you were where Walker was and you came off that third year and you're like, man, I made it. I'm a good starting center. Like I was on Locke's podcast last week, and I was like, I said there's a chance he's a top 5 center in the NBA by the end of the year. Now, I want to go back and just clear that up really quickly. I'm not mixing in Anthony Davis and Alperen Şengün. I'm talking about like 5s. Yeah. I'm talking about 5s. I'm talking about Zubats, Jakob Poeltl. Yes, absolutely, Jokic is in this conversation. Embiid's in this conversation. But there's like the 3 great 5s right now. Wemby's one of the great 5s. Then it really opens up. You know what I mean? There's not again, there's a lot of 4 5s. Like Kyle Filipowski's not a 5 in my opinion. So that's what I'm saying. I'm talking about like the true low post, rim running, lob catching 5s. Yeah. Not the other guys who kind of play positionless basketball. So, but I would get if you were Walker and you're like, man, I led the league in offensive rebounding. Until you had me shoot 3s at the end of the year to tank games, I led the league in field goal percentage. Second in shot blocks or block shots. I was probably the best player on the team last year when you talk about games played and production. Why can't I get mine? And the truth is they have nothing to do with one another. Yeah. And that stinks for Walker, I'm sure, to look and see that Paolo Banchero got paid and Jalen Williams got paid and Jabari Smith got paid and Chet Holmgren got paid. Actually, not that many guys from his class got contracts, but those guys all did. And I'm sure he was like, just give me my money. And the Jazz and Austin Ainge just consistently said, even though they said the kind of tagline today was we're not going to negotiate publicly, is that every dollar counts right now. And giving somebody extra money before they have to, because you go into next summer with his cap hold and not his actual contract on the books, you'll get something like $14 million, I think, in extra wiggle room. That's a lot of money. $14 million is an extra player. And Walker's got to sacrifice that right now. And I get why if you're Walker, that stinks. You're saying, hey, dude, I'm walking around with Fabergé eggs in my pocket every day. Like if I fall and get hurt, that money's gone. Yeah. I don't make that up, so I want the money now. And I'm sure the counter for the Jazz is fine. Sign a 4-year, $80 million deal. Yeah. And that's a great deal for us. Or 4 years, $100 million, or whatever the number is. Give us a huge discount. We'll sign you now, or we'll just wait. And I'm sure that was the impasse. Yes. And that's what restricted free agency is for. And unfortunately, Walker's class, his draft class, and maybe a little bit this last year, which is why Jonathan Kuminga is unsigned and why Quentin Grimes is unsigned and why Josh Giddey only got $25 million a year or whatever it was. Who else was in this group? Cam Thomas is on a qualifying offer. Yeah. He averaged 25 points a game last year. He's going to make $6 million and is going to hit unrestricted free agency next summer. Crazy. Which is like, that's a name the Jazz could look at if he decides he wants to play defense at some point in his career. But, that's the kind of wiggle room you talk about with $14 million. That's just where you are now. And that class last year, or the 2021 draft class and Walker's 2022 draft class, are bearing the brunt of the new CBA. Yes. You're just the ones who are handling it. And unfortunately, there is the opposite. The years when the salary cap spikes and guys who aren't worth it get $150 million contracts. Bismack Biyombo famously got a ton of money. And who was the center that was in L.A.? He'd won a title with the Cavs and went to L.A. or whatever it was and got paid, or maybe it was the other way around. It's like, it just happens. Sometimes you bite the bear, sometimes the bear bites you, as they say. And right now it's hard on these draft class. I was about to say, specifically that draft class, I feel like it's the COVID class, but instead of COVID, it's the new CBA. Yeah, exactly. Like they're the ones who are biting the bullet the hardest from it, because teams are still kind of figuring out and maneuvering it. Because I feel like, assuming this is how the CBA will be, and there won't be like big updates coming anytime soon, like that is like teams. There's going to be a progression of teams figuring out the best way to build their teams and orchestrate their money.
And right now they're figuring out the best way to do that, right? And Walker's awesome. He's probably better than Jabari Smith, but at the same time, he's not Paolo Banchero. So,
correct. And he's not Chet, and he's not Jalen. I mean,
Yeah.
Jalen's the second best player on a title team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get why he got paid. And there's something if you're just so obviously going to get the max, give him the max. And look, everyone wants to celebrate after you win a title. Yes. Everyone gets paid after you win a championship. Yeah. And Paolo's the number 1 overall pick. Like, don't anger Paolo in Boston.
Yes.
He's a star.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not a superstar, but he's really close.
Yeah.
He's you know what? He got you to the playoffs. He's the best player on a playoff team. Like, you know what, Walker? If you had done that, they probably would have paid you too.
Yeah.
And I get that that's not what they're trying to do, but if you were good enough to do it, they would have just rallied around you and let you do it. So I feel for Walker. I really do. This has a chance to linger over the team all season long. True. If Walker doesn't play well and then that haunts him and he's like, oh, I wanted to get paid and I'm not going to play well. And now it's spiraling.
Yeah.
He did not have a good second year and it just kind of spiraled on him. Now he was dealing with an elbow injury and there were some things there, but it could be a big deal because Walker might be the Jazz's. I mean, Walker is the Jazz's second best player.
Yes.
I don't think there's any question about that. Lowry's number 1. Walker right now coming back is the second best player on the team at this point of the year. Could someone pass him? Certainly. But based on previous production, he's the second best player. And if the second best player is unhappy and doesn't play well, the Jazz are going to be really bad. Yeah. Really bad. They're already going to be bad. And if Walker's not playing hard or not playing well, which was what was weird about his second season, he wasn't playing that hard, that could really be a negative tone setter for the Jazz. And if that's the case, trade him, don't pay him, move it, whatever. But that was certainly maybe if you were looking for things that like stood out strangely at Media Day today, that was it.
A couple more things I want to say. I think that you were absolutely right in saying like it was sort of a back and forth and it was like neither side was willing to give enough to
get a deal done.
And also, this is a tangent that I don't really want to go off on, and I'm not sure how much this weighed into anything because I'm sure that the Jazz love Walker. And like you said, year 3 for him was the best year of his career so far. But I don't know if it's possible to win in the NBA with a only rim running defensive 5 man. Like the past few title teams that you look at. Like the closest, most recent example is probably like Kevon Looney with the Warriors, but you have Steph Curry on that team. So
Hartenstein,
Hartenstein.
I mean, he's not a 3-point shooter. Certainly, he's a rebounder, tough guy. So he's a little more in that sense. But even then, you can pull him off the court and just put Chet out there. Yeah. The Jazz do not have Chet as the backup, and Hartenstein's gonna not be in a contract very long. You know, I think this is the last year of his deal that's guaranteed. So. They'll have options after that, and they might move on from him. So, no, I think you're totally right. It's the hard part about paying Walker too much right now is like he's not quite a dinosaur. He's not totally irrelevant, and he's held his own pretty well, I think, against some of the best centers in the NBA. And center, I do think, is going to continue to become kind of a premium spot because there's so many good young centers in the NBA. If you have one, you're going to be happy that you do, and if you don't, you're going to be the Lakers who are trying to acquire one at every step of the way. So in that sense, I think you should try and hold on to Walker, but you do want to make sure it fits, and you can't afford to overpay the wrong guy, especially where the Jazz are at this point. So go ahead.
I will just say to add on, I think that was the only negative thing about Media Day, and all he said was he was frustrated. He didn't say he didn't drop some crazy bomb.
Yeah. So. And you know what? I asked Will Hardy about it because we got to talk to Will on the radio show, and again, you can go listen to the interview, and he said, that is my job to make sure the guys are happy. Yeah. You know, Will doesn't negotiate the contracts, but he manages players, but he also manages people. Yeah. And he says, I recognize that. I've got to make sure people are happy. So I don't think the Jazz are just going to put Walker on an island and not put him in a spot to succeed and earn his money. That's the thing. Walker has everything lined up for him to go out and earn $200 million. Yeah. You know, Walker, go play your butt off, prove that you're the best or second best player on the team, become a great defensive player, average 3 blocks a game, shoot 70% from the floor, make a couple of free throws, grab 14 rebounds a night. Like, if Walker averaged 17 and 14, that's totally doable. Yeah. Right? Like, he can average 17, 14, and 3 next year. Mm-hmm. Nobody is next to him. John Collins is not there to steal minutes. Jazz aren't going to give Yusuf Nurkic minutes to keep Yusuf Nurkic or Kevin Love or anybody, Mo Bamba happy. Yeah. You know? Like, Walker, they're all there for you, dude, and they're going to let you play. Go out and average 17, 14, and 3 and sign a max contract. Like, I think that's on the table for him. Should we take a quick break? We'll come back, talk some more players, and get to the mailbag?
Yes.
All right, let's do that. We'll take a quick break. We'll run through some other players quickly and then get your mailbag questions. Stick around. More Jazz Notes coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson, Chandler Holt. All right, I'm trying to manage who we have actually talked about and not talked about on the roster. Let's talk about the third-year players. Then we'll get to some of the other rookies, second-year players, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Obviously, Taylor Hendricks coming back is just a huge deal.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Seems like he's in a good mood. Austin Ainge was on with DJ and PK this morning and just said he's full go. There's no restrictions on his health at all. I know they're going to bring him along slowly.
Yes.
Kind of everybody said, and that was the one thing Will Hardy did say, is like, I'm not judging him on his basketball at all this year. Yeah. Like, I just want to see him out there playing. So I would say that, but everyone kind of just seems to be like, yeah, man, he does a lot of unique things that nobody else does. We talked to Bryce Sensabaugh on my radio show, and he just said he does things that make our life a lot easier because there's not a lot of guys in the world that do what he does, which is, switch defensively, knock down threes, rebound, run the floor, be super athletic. He does some really good things, so the Jazz could use him. I
will say, I really hope for the Jazz's sake that Taylor can get back to full health, because just this might sound harsh, but the idea of Taylor Hendricks to me is just so awesome. Like if he can get to that, like 3-and-D, I'm pretty sure his rookie year he shot like close to 40% on threes.
37%.
Yeah. And like switchable, probably like twos, maybe even slower ones through fives. Like,
yeah, you can put him on Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. He can probably legitimately go on an island with 20% of the point guards in the NBA.
Yeah.
And we saw him being the Jazz's best defender against Victor Wembanyama his rookie season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some real stuff there.
Yeah. So, I mean, he looked happy. He looked awesome. And like I talked about Keontae talking about him, it feels like they're sort of like building him up to like, I think it will be a slow build up for him, like you said. I asked him if he had any like goals for himself, whether it be mental, playing time, stats, anything like that. And he said, no, I'm just getting my confidence back up. He said that in summer he had like some like trust issues with his legs, like naturally, like does my leg work? And he says he doesn't have that anymore and he feels good.
And again, the weird thing was, and this was the real unfortunate thing about the injury, is like he slipped.
Yeah.
The ball boy did a bad job.
Yeah.
Didn't clean up after a free throw when he slipped on the court. It wasn't like his knee gave out. It wasn't something like that. It was a freak leg break. It wasn't something that, knock on wood, should continue to haunt him for the rest of his career. He did say quickly his jumping came back right away. He said the quick twitch stuff was a little slower to come to him, but we'll see. We'll see what it looks like when he comes back.
Yeah.
Bryce Sensabaugh.
Bryce, he like I would say the biggest thing I took away from his talk was just like getting confidence from the summer league. And then also, let me actually pull this up. This is something that I tweeted out, and if you don't have time or can't get to watching, you can go to the KSL Sports Twitter. There's a bunch of quotes up there from Media Day today. Bryce Sensabaugh talked about his defense, and he said, defense is the biggest focal point for me right now. A lot of my work this summer has been catered towards that. For the trajectory of my career, I feel like it's something I need to crack down on. That last line specifically, like you even talked about last year, he came in and he was like, I know my role. Like I need to be the best shooter on the team in order to be an NBA player.
Yep.
And now he's like basically saying, if I want to be a 10-year NBA player, I need to be a better defender.
Yeah, you build off that.
Yeah.
You've got to figure out what your main identity is, and then you have to have another 2 or 3 skills that actually keep you in the league.
Yes.
He's thinner. He told me he was probably 240 at points last year. I think he's down to 226 now, which is pretty significant. So he's moving quicker. He said, I would see photos of myself and I'd just be embarrassed. Like, I got to get rid of that, which is funny because you see him in person. You're like, yeah, you're a professional athlete. And he looks like it. It's not like he's doughy.
Yeah.
But he has said, like, I just didn't like the way I looked. And like, you can see it in his face. His face is super thin now. Again, we got to interview him for the show. So we will get these videos up on YouTube and stuff for you. So you can see kind of what they look like up close and how he sounds a little bit more in depth with each player. But yeah, he totally gets it. He just totally understands. He's a great shooter. He's going to be a great shooter. I do think he's in line for a really big year.
Yes.
He's going to be in the rotation.
Yeah.
I remember last year he really wasn't in the rotation to start the season. It wasn't until that big run in Florida, Miami, and Orlando back-to-back. Then he gets sick. And then it's like the All-Star break. And then he comes back after the All-Star break and just absolutely lights up the world. And was shooting, 54% from 3 on 5 or 6 attempts a game or whatever it was over the second half of the season. He's going to start out in a really good spot.
I'm pretty sure last year when we did our end of season awards, he was our 6th man of the year, but it was also kind of like a by default because no one really played as much and came off the bench as much.
Yeah.
I would if I were to give a prediction, which I'm sure we will end up doing before the season, I would pick him as my 6th man of the year.
If he doesn't start.
True.
He may start.
True.
It may be that simple. All right. Let's do the other rookies.
Okay.
Well, let's do second-year players. Let's go quickly.
Yes.
I did not talk to Flip today.
Yes. I actually missed part of it. But I came back and he also, similar to Bryce, talked about like getting some more confidence in summer league. But yeah, he just seemed happy as well. Like he seemed that, and again, I will sound like a broken record here. The vibes were great today. And like out, and even for Walker, like he came in and there was that first part that was kind of iffy, but then after that, like the rest of his interview was good. Like maybe he wasn't as high energy, but he was still smiling and giving good answers.
He's never that high energy.
Yeah.
He's just kind of a low voice dude. He's just like, yeah, he's just kind of a dude.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yes.
I like Flip a lot. You know what he has in common with Bryce Sensabaugh? They both got married this summer.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So Bryce's was a little more public. I think people knew about it.
Yeah.
I think Kyle's was a little bit more behind the scenes, but I did talk to him downstairs. They were running around. I pulled him aside for a second. And I actually asked Will Hardy about him specifically because I said, Will, generally in most teams around the league, if your second-year player won summer league MVP, they would be the talk, right?
Yeah.
Like you're about to make a huge jump. Your guy was the best player in the summer. And I think Will was astute. What he said was that his work every day makes you expect him to do great things. So when he does something like win an MVP award at Summer League, it doesn't surprise anyone because he's raised the level of expectation for himself. And I think that's very accurate. I think people expect Flip to be good. I think he is good. I think he's got to get much better defensively.
Yes.
But Will said his dedication to shooting the three has been real, and it's a very real shot for him. And if that continues to go in, I just think the sky offensively is the limit. Who he's going to defend, I don't know. That's going to continue to be his big conversation. But, man, his legs looked really big. He looked good. He looked really strong. And I think those are all positive signs for him.
He talked about that. He talked about getting stronger as, like, I'm pretty sure he was just simply asked, like, what have you worked on? What do you want to get better at? And he pointed out his body. He pointed out defense. Another interesting thing, he said that Kevin Love was one of his favorite players growing up, and people used to call him K-Love.
K-Love, right? I heard that, yeah.
So, and he said it's surreal to have the opportunity to learn from him.
Maybe
So
was I there for Flip? I just can't remember.
Yeah.
Now I wonder if maybe I was actually just there for Flip.
Yeah.
I can't remember. That was an hour ago. But getting old is the worst. No, I thought he was spot on. Again, I think he's going to be a huge piece of the rotation.
Yes.
I just think he's won everywhere he's gone. And I don't mean necessarily games. I mean, he's better than all of his peers every single place he's ever been. I don't know why that's going to necessarily stop. He's not going to be the best player in the NBA, but I think he's going to continue to outperform a lot of players his age. All right, let's go quickly to the rookies.
Okay.
Walt Clayton, he was pretty short. He was one of the last guys, and
Yes.
like you could tell everyone was like, we're tired.
Yeah.
I heard pretty glowing things about Walt, but from all the players I talked to, even like Svi Mikhailuk, but guys are like, he just got it. He's got a good pace, just real mature, and doesn't play like a rookie. Now look, he's 23 or whatever it is, 22. He's older than Isaiah and Keontae. I've told you over and over, I think he's going to be the Jazz's starting point guard by the middle of the season. But it just kind of sounds like none of this is too big for him.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like this is going to overwhelm him. His confidence is certainly there. I thought he played well at Summer League, and it seems like a lot of that's just continued for him.
Yeah. I wasn't there for the Walt part. So.
I just don't think there's not a ton there. I mean, I think we'll hear about him more and more as the Summer League goes on.
Yes.
Who else did I ask about that specifically pointed him out? One of the other guys I talked to, one of the vets, I can't remember exactly who it was, honestly, was just like, Walt's really good. He's been a really good player. So that's exciting. I think if you're a Jazz fan, that's another good pick. And then John Tonji was just the one thing that I think Oscar Sheboy said is he just never stops running. He's just like running off screens. He's very solid. So
I was going to say what that reminded me of is maybe I would say best case scenario for John Tonji would be like a Josh Hart-esque type of player.
Okay, that'd be great.
Just like uses cardio and athleticism to do the dirty work and just is everywhere on the court. But with that said, Josh Hart was a first-round pick.
Barely.
And
by the Jazz.
Yeah.
Should have kept him. That was a mistake. He's got to be an energy guy. He's going to be in the G League.
Yes.
He's going to be a G League guy, I suspect, unless he just absolutely blows everyone away. I don't get the impression he's like blown everybody away.
Yeah.
But, he's 24 years old and he's trying to figure out what his role is and how he plays. His best thing he can do is just hit wide open threes and play some defense. Again, it's boring to break the league down that way, but that's the case. Isaiah Collier, I wasn't blown away by Isaiah. We talked about Flip. We should have talked about Isaiah there too. He's going to have to figure out what his second year is. And I don't know if his second year is going to look a whole lot different than his first year.
Yeah.
And that might be what rattles his cage into figuring out how to evolve his game.
Yeah.
We will see. I'm not totally sure what to make of Isaiah's summer. He was not that good at Summer League, I didn't think. He will look better playing with better players that make his life easier and playing with like some 5-out rosters, lineups that allow him to do his thing and penetrate a little bit more. But he's going to have to be more than just, well, this is my game, so build a lineup around me. He's not good enough to do that.
Yeah, exactly. He was, I don't want to say like necessarily forgettable like interview, but I feel like for everyone I had a moment. For him, maybe the moment was like, so he was asked about how his shot was doing, and he said that, oh, my shot is it's going great right now. And it's like from what we saw in Summer League, it wasn't really there. Maybe he has made some strides in the past couple months. But yeah, I don't want to say that I'm expecting a Walker Kessler kind of year 2, like maybe a step back from year 1 and then figure it out in year 3. But yeah, it just remains to be seen. And I think that Isaiah Collier is maybe going to be the most affected by the Jazz drafting Walt Clayton.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. That's a good point. I think that's a good point. Again, I just think Walt, the things he does matter so much. Yeah. And unfortunately for Isaiah, I don't know if the things he does matter as much as they once did.
Yeah.
I've even compared him a little bit to De'Aaron Fox. Mm-hmm. Like De'Aaron Fox is like the best case scenario of Isaiah, right? Yeah. Super speedy, downhill guard, doesn't shoot super well. And even then, De'Aaron's like kind of the guy you're always like, oh, how much do we want to pay him actually? Like he's really good and he's an all-star and he's played for one good team in his career.
Yeah.
1 year they were good. And the rest of the year they've been a little underwhelming. So yeah, his game's going to have to continue to evolve if he's really going to become a major difference maker in the NBA. Oh, you know what? Who you said quickly we'll touch on too, because you said he was your favorite interview was Georges Niang.
Yeah, he was Georges Niang left Utah before I started, so I had never talked to him before. And I just thought he was well-spoken. He talked about loving Utah. He talked about how it felt good to be back. And basically his message, which I felt like he came back to in every single answer he gave, was that NBA isn't guaranteed. It's an everyday thing. He talked about a quote from LeBron where he said, like, some player told him that they were tired, and LeBron said, I've been tired for 15 years. So, yeah, it was basically like he is the I have to prove myself every single day to be where I am kind of player.
Yep. I think that's exactly what it is. George is funny, biting a little bit, you know what I mean? Like he's got an edge to him. We got to talk to him one-on-one. Again, I have a story with George, which I've told before, and I'll just tell it again quickly. I basically asked, like, hey, George, how are you going to get on the floor? This was when the Jazz had Jay Crowder and Royce O'Neal, and they'd signed Derek Favors. And I was like, what position are you going to play? Are you going to get skinnier, or they ask you to put on weight? And I think it kind of sounded like, and maybe this is my poor wording, and totally, if it was, I own it. Basically, I've been like, George, you're out of shape. What's wrong with you? Yeah. And that's not what I meant to say, but I'm not a perfect person. I'm sure I word things wrong pretty badly sometimes as well. So, and he even brought it up today on our one-on-one, or not our one-on-one, but on the radio. He kind of brought it up, and I was just like, because I was surprised he's been in the league for 10 years. 10 years is, I mean, there's been, 4,500 players, I think, that have ever played in the NBA.
Yeah.
There's like probably 1,000 that have played 10 years in the league. Like, not a whole lot. Like, you get into that run where you've been in the league for a decade. A, your pension is crazy. Yeah. B, the amount of guaranteed money you've made in your life is crazy. It's a real accomplishment. So credit George for doing that. And then he gave me some heat for questioning that he'd been in the league for 10 years. But that's just who George is. You know what I mean? But he really is like happy to be back.
Yes.
I think this is a good spot for him. And one of the things that you look at with Lowry, you bring Taylor back. You've even got guys like Svi. I don't know if Svi's going to play at all. But you've got Bryce Sensabaugh. We'll see what Keontae looks like. But Walt is there. I think Ace is there. You mix in George. This team could really shoot.
Oh,
This team, if they might accidentally like surprise and win 29 games, which I still think is going to allow you to hold on the 8th overall pick, but maybe you're not one of the 3 worst records in the NBA. There's a chance the Jazz win 15 games this year just by like they hit 23s.
Yeah.
And you remember Quinn Snyder when the Jazz had their best record in the NBA, 3 years ago or whatever that was, 2021. Because it was the COVID year that they had their best. The number of nights you would look down the list and be like, Jazz hit 24 threes? They just burned you. I mean, it was almost Golden State Warriors-esque from a few years ago. It's just like they got hot and they just cooked you. And you can't beat teams when they hit 23 threes. Jazz never hit 23 threes in a game last year. The most was 22, and they only broke 24 times. And they only went 1-3 in those games. But I will tell you, when they made 19 or more, I think they were 3-5 last year. Well, 3-5 is 30 wins. Yeah. That's 13 more than they had last season. So if the Jazz can consistently knock down in the high teens, they're going to win a lot of games, certainly more than they did last season. And there's a chance that this is a pretty good shooting team. There's also a chance that if Ace is out there and he can't quite shoot yet and he's taking a lot, or it takes a while for Taylor to get back, or Flip isn't shooting 35% from 3, that they're a really bad 3-point shooting team, and then they're back to winning 19 or 20 games.
Real quick, I want to break away from the players for just a second to talk about something Will Hardy said, and I thought it was really interesting. he said, talking about the lineup and the rotation, he said, if we don't set it up in a way where it's a meritocracy, you're going to have a team that's split. And he basically said, there's a group of players that know no matter what they do, they won't play. And then a group of players who know no matter what they do, they will play.
Yeah.
Which is how it should be run, right? But with that being said, when I look at the roster, in my mind, I would think, okay, is Svi, George, and of course, like John Chanji, Oscar Shibwe, and then like Kevin Love, like, are those guys ever going to see the floor, right?
Yeah. And what he was saying was, yes, the hard part about doing what they did last year was if you busted your butt in practice, but you weren't on the in crowd, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
So why would you bust your butt that hard?
Yes.
And if you were just handed minutes, and he didn't even say it was last year. I shouldn't say that. He didn't say that was the case last year. But he's talking about teams that's the case, where you're going to get minutes because you're young and it doesn't really matter what else you do.
Yeah.
Well, why would you ever work hard?
Yeah.
It's just given to you. So he wants to shed that. He
Yes.
wants to get rid of that. So we will see how well they actually do that. And, maybe as much as I've talked about what I thought the starting lineup would be, which would be Keontae, Ace, Lowry, Flip, Walker, maybe like George Niang is in there. And they're just like, hey, dude, if you want to play, look at how hard George has worked. Yeah. Now, George is nursing a little bit of a foot thing that the Jazz have announced. He said it's mostly precautionary.
Yes.
I don't think he's worried about it. I think he'll be fine. Maybe he hasn't played the first few preseason games, but he'll be out there at some point. Yeah, maybe that's what you do. Maybe you say, hey, guys, there's 20 minutes for George Niang on the table because he works hard. You can have them, I promise. But you better come out and play really hard. You're not just going to be given those minutes. Yeah,
because like just off of looking at the roster and like assuming what the Jazz's mission is, I would be like, okay, all 9 of the first 3-year players are going to be playing like 15 plus minutes a game. Mm-hmm. But then it goes back to what Will Hardy said. So I agree with you. I think that there will be veterans playing, and I don't want to say as a lesson because these guys have worked their butts off to be in the NBA, but in a roundabout way, it kind of is.
Well, it doesn't mean you made it.
Yeah.
You're in the NBA now. But it doesn't mean you made it.
Yeah.
I didn't see Cody. I didn't talk to Cody. I know he's running around. He does look a little bit bigger. You mentioned like kind of some of the things like being asked about like his brother winning a title and how he feels, etc. He just wasn't like a talk of training camp.
Yes.
Which I guess it probably would have been a green flag if he was. Mm-hmm. That's not what we've heard so far. I'm not ready to write him off. I told you I have not sold my Cody Williams stock. I just didn't hear like it's a Cody year this year. So we will see there.
I feel like he is kind of a quieter person, and that's how he was today.
Yeah, agreed.
He was just sort of like, I don't want to say he was giving minimal answers, but it wasn't like he was going out of his way to give a in-depth explanation on anything. But he also talked about putting on weight. He said that he feels stronger, and he says he feels more balanced, which is good because I would say Cody Williams' route to making it, especially on the Jazz roster, is defense.
Yep. So being a good defensive player who also hits down some open shots. Yeah. Just kind of causes mayhem. Deflections, rebounds, make a couple of assists. Yep. There's absolutely a pathway for him to be like a really important player for the Jazz. I just didn't hear like rave reviews. I also didn't hear anything negative about him. Yeah. So that's a good thing. Only guys we haven't talked about, Yusuf Nurkic. He's just the backup center. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he knows what this is. The Jazz know what this is. I don't think this is a real chance for Yusuf to develop into something special. Yeah. And then Mo Bamba. I think Jazz are going to give Mo a chance to like impress. Yeah. I think they'll let him play in the summer league and or in the preseason. If he plays really well, they'll find a way to get him on the roster one way or another. Yeah. If not, I would imagine he goes and plays with the Stars. Yes. But I don't think there's a huge dedication to Mo. Yeah.
If he does end up hypothetically overtaking Yusuf Nurkic as the backup 5 for the Jazz, over under 250 times the song gets played at Delta Center this year.
Well, that song rips. Yeah. That's a great song. So I hope it's 1,000. I hope he makes the roster just so it plays it every break in the action. I love that song. Who's the guy? Wes? What's his name?
Sheck Wes.
Sheck Wes. Yeah.
I was like one hit wonder kind of.
Great song though. But what a song. It would be weird if the most famous thing about you was somebody wrote a song using your name.
And you're a professional athlete. And
he made a bunch of money. Again, it's hard I was talking to some people there. They're like, it's really hard to overstate what a big deal Mo Bamba was in the AAU circuit. Yeah. Like his recruitment to Texas, like the thought was Mo Bamba was like a superstar in the making. Oh yeah. Like this guy had it all, shoot the three, big rebounder. Man, and he's like real down to earth. I was impressed with his interview. I'd never talked to Mo before. He was really kind of like with it. Yeah. He's like serious. Yeah. Which is cool. Which is a good sign for him. So we'll see.
All right. Real quick. Favorite moment from today?
Oh man, I would say and this is just a plug for myself. Like, go back and listen to our Keontae interview. Really, him talking about getting the perspective of how quickly this can leave you. That we did on Jake and Ben. Talking to Keontae was really impressive. He was the guy last week Jake and I said we were most excited to talk to. It just so happened he was the first player who sat down in front of us, and he gave us 20 minutes, and he was really spectacular.
That's awesome.
You?
It was also the Keontae moment when he was talking about Taylor being back, and he got really emotional. Because like I said, I said this in the first half, but you can hear everyone be like, yeah, man, we love each other. But then like seeing a guy get emotional talking about his brother being back on the court is different. And
then a very close second, and maybe it's actually number one for me, and it was just different because it was the whole media room, was Ace. Yeah. This might be the beginning of a thing. This, you kind of, and I've said this before, and sometimes it doesn't work out. Yeah. There are times when it really doesn't. If it becomes the thing that people want it to be, you're starting to see the story written already. Like, you're seeing the introduction. You're starting to see makes the good decision about his agent. Yeah. Well, played well at Summer League, the 2 games. Only the second game he played great. But kind of hearing some things, just like people are excited about him. Yeah. And then he makes the good decision with his agent. And then like his interviews are great. Like, his buy-in is there. It just kind of feels like a couple of stars are starting to align a little bit. And then if a year or two from now, we're like, man, how did this guy follow the Jazz? What type of a mistake was that anyone picked anyone over him? You may be starting to sense a little bit of that magic dust in the air right now.
And let me say, the series of events for Ace Bailey and Utah right now, he won over the teammates, check.
Yep.
He won over the diehard fans, check. He won over the media, which is probably the least important of everything I'm about to say.
Absolutely it is, and the easiest to do.
Yeah. And then once he goes through his rookie year, I'm assuming he's going to win over the casual fans as well.
Yep.
And then, like you said, he's going to own the state.
And I think the coaches are excited.
Yes.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I kind of think the coaches are like, there's really something here.
Yes.
And you know what? They get excited about these players because they want to be able to do certain things that 6'2", 200-pound guys can't do.
Yeah.
But 6'8", 240-pound guys with 7'1" wingspans can do.
Yeah.
That are different, and he's got that. All right, let's get to the mailbag.
Yes.
Appreciate everybody who's waded through this and sent in questions. And today was a fun media day.
Yes.
They're not always fun. Today I thought was a fun media day. So appreciate everyone who has stuck around. Let's get to the mailbag questions.
I've been to 3, my favorite one, for sure.
Okay.
First up, Jake the Lynx. I've always thought the Walker Kessler re-signing next year instead was fine and made sense. But seeing a lot of people online saying he seemed very upset about it at media day, how big of an issue is it really?
Could be nothing. Could be honestly something that kind of haunts the team.
Yeah.
And my guess, honestly, if it becomes like a huge distraction, they would trade him.
Yes.
Now, that's a guess on my part. No one's told me that. Don't aggregate that. But, Walker's been involved in a lot of trade conversations from other teams. I don't know if the Jazz have ever engaged anyone and been like, hey, we're going to offer you Walker.
Yeah.
I think if that was the case, he would have been traded already. So my guess is other people have tried to come and get Walker, and there continues to be reports that the Lakers want him. I think the Jazz want Walker. Everything they said today, we want Walker. Walker's going to be a long-term part of the team. Austin Ainge said it. Walker Kessler or Will Hardy said it. I think they want to have him around, but it just didn't make sense to sign him, and that's the truth of it. And that's hard to be young, and I'm sure he's got his girlfriend, and I'm sure it's exciting to be like, hey, I'm going to be $100 millionaire. And he wouldn't have even gotten the money till next year anyways. It's not like the contract would have kicked in, but having that guarantee probably would have given him some peace of mind.
True.
So it doesn't have to be an issue. And it will all depend on how Walker plays on the court. Because if he plays on the court, it will take care of itself, and the Jazz will pay him.
Yeah. Another one from Jake the Lynx, and a good one, more personal one. Some player interviews were super short, just a single question or two. From a media perspective, what makes the difference on if you guys want to ask more questions or skip quickly to the next person?
Generally, it's what we think is going to make a story.
Yes.
Like, with all due respect to Matt Murrell and Steven Crowell, like, their training camp invites, Murrell's kind of an interesting guy. He signed with the team right after the draft. Yeah. And then, because I had a bunch of people question me, like, do your job. Why aren't you figuring out where Matt Murrell is? Like, he got hurt last year. And he's rehabbing. So they didn't have him on the Summer League roster because they didn't have to pay him that way or whatever it is. So, but he's here now. Some of the questions, some of the guys, you just kind of get a sense of, like, they're not going to be a huge storyline. And honestly, some of it does just get a little bit later in the day, and everyone's been there for 5 hours. Like, started at 8 a.m. today, so when it's 1:30, unfortunately, like, I think Walt Clayton was probably a little bit shorter than had he been the second interview of the day.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the human nature of it, and you'd like to think everybody's a robot and nobody falls victim to that, but they do. They fall victim to it, and it's a long day. So I don't think it's personal. Some of it's a little bit more calculated. you know what? There are some years where they don't even put everyone out there. Like there are years where Crowell wouldn't have gotten out there and Mural wouldn't have gotten up there. We never would have heard from them. But, you want to hear from Lowry. You want to hear from Walker. You want to hear from Keontae. You want to hear. And you kind of do start to get a sense of like who these guys are and what the big storylines are forming in the offseason. And then you follow up on it.
I do agree with you. I think it does come down to like the story aspect, because that, like, at the end of the day, that is kind of our job, is to paint the story, make a movie out of the sports world.
Yep.
And like, just like walking through, I could do this really quick. Like, the first question Lowry was asked was about Eurobasket, which is probably the biggest thing around him right now. For Walker, the first question he was asked was about his contract. I'm pretty sure Ace's first question was about Omar, right?
Yeah. I think it was his second. Okay. But yeah, regardless, it's early on.
Yeah, it's like you sort of get those things out of the way, and then it goes down into the more basic, like, what did you work on this summer? But it is, the story questions are what make the interviews longer. And
some of it, you're just kind of picking at threads on a sweater.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, oh, well, that was a short one. It came out. And then one was like, oh, this thing is pulling.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you draw. That happened today with Kevin Love. So we were kind of talking. Seemed like it was wrapping up a little bit. And then, no, it was the other way. It was with Will Hardy. And I said, like, hey, I know you were a Timberwolves fan. Were you a fan of Kevin Love? And then he tells this great story about playing high school basketball against Kevin Love. And then that kind of just re-energizes the room.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I don't mean I did that. I just mean that's just what happens. And then, Andy will do it, or Sarah will do it, or, Matt will do it. There's just like a lot of people there asking questions. And it just kind of can spark a funny storyline.
Yeah.
And then it's a drug. We feed off the energy of talking to people. You know what I mean? Like, you get momentum and then you feed off that. So some of it's calculated. It's probably less calculated than people think.
Yeah. Next from Quinn. The Walker Kessler interview question about how he was feeling about his extension not being offered yet was very interesting. His being frustrated was not what was expected by most fans. What's your read on the situation? Is this a bigger deal than it seems so far?
I think, like he said, if they can be done with it today, not mean sign the contract, but this is the last time he's going to talk about it, and he can actually approach it that way. Guys do that all the time. I mean, have you ever watched an NFL game? Those guys are all on non-guaranteed contracts every single day, unless like you're a star like Micah Parsons and you can actually sit out and say, trade me, or I'm just not going to play for you, and you already have $80 million. Most guys can't really handle that. And the same thing is Walker doesn't have any leverage in this situation. Yeah. What is he going to go play bad and not make as much money? Like, what works best for Walker, best case scenario, is he goes and plays really well and costs the Jazz money. Yeah. That he would have said, hey, I would have signed for 120 last year, and now I'm 180. Shame on you guys.
Yeah.
Jazz would be like, great. That's perfect.
Now we have $180 million out of
Yeah, now we have a player that's good enough to earn that.
Yeah.
So the Jazz have all the leverage in this situation, and that's kind of the hard part for Walker, I guess. Yeah. So we probably won't know until we see how Walker plays.
Yeah. And I feel like that is kind of what the point of the CBA is to be more team friendly. Like, we have talked about how like this was back when the whole like dialogue around Ace was that he didn't want to be here. It was like, well, the Jazz are always going to have all of the leverage with Ace because they drafted him. Like, that's what the CBA does. Like, they can always offer him more money than anyone else can.
Yep. Or he's restricted.
Yeah.
So they can match the money. What's something else that Ryan Smith said that I thought was a good sign, and I totally agree with him? It's like, people got to stop asking the local athletes if they're happy here.
Yeah.
Stop asking the hockey players if they're happy here. Stop asking NBA players if they're happy here. It's like, these kids are 19 years old. They don't have any idea what Utah is. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, maybe Kevin Love has a sense of it. And Kevin Love is the guy who lives in Park City in his offseason. Like, he's like, I've been in Southern Utah and Park City. I do know it here. Like, guys are happy here. I think guys are fine. That doesn't mean everyone's happy. Guess what? Micah Parsons wasn't happy in Dallas. You know what I mean? Like, there are towns people aren't happy in general. I think that story has jumped the shark a little bit.
And it's like, Ace Bailey, and I'm pretty sure I wrote about this in an article at some point. Ace Bailey has been on the East Coast, Eastern U.S. his entire life. Yep. If you went to Portland, it probably would have been the same thing.
Yeah, it would have been a culture shock. He's from Chattanooga, goes to Georgia, then goes and plays in New Jersey.
Yeah.
It's like a different, you're coming to Salt Lake City. Yeah. You've never lived truly inland, Tennessee a little bit, but it's southern. And now you're like in a mountain town.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the mountains?
Exactly.
Well, I don't know if you have or not. So, but anyways, he aced his, no pun intended, honestly. That would have horrible. He aced his test today, though.
All right, next up from Alex Atwood. With the new salary aprons and how that affects mid-salary players, do you think there needs to be a realigning with how much role players make? For example, Walker and others, do you think it'll affect how teams are built going forward?
I'm going to say we need to realign how much star players make.
Okay.
Too many guys sign max contracts.
Yeah.
Too many guys are getting the max for being, as I've called it for a long time, the best player tax. Like, well, the best player on your team gets a max contract. Why? Doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Are they the best player in the league? Are they one of the 10 best players in the league? If not, why are they automatically cashing in on $200 million before they hit restricted free agency?
Yeah.
Let the market dictate what they are. Like, look, that's brutal, but that's what the CBA is designed to do. We weren't letting enough guys get to restricted free agency. We should have absolutely let every player in the NBA, barring the absolute creme de la creme, the best of the best, should get early contracts. Otherwise, why would you give someone money quickly before you have to? I've never understood that, other than it keeps people happy, and that's a big part of it. But if you reset the norm and the expectation that nobody gets paid until they're a restricted free agent, that would correct the market.
Yes.
So I think that's where we're headed. I think that's where teams are going to start going. I think owners have probably not collectively in a back room decided that this is what they're going to do, or GMs or presidents of basketball ops in a back room decided that's what they're doing, but I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think they are kind of understanding that we got to stop paying these guys early. It's killing us.
Yeah.
Especially if they get hurt or they don't end up being as good. So, or we're just overpaying them because the market was never going to allow them to have that.
Yeah. Like Shea, I believe he signed like a $70 million a year contract, something like that. Like, okay, he just had a top 10 single season campaign.
Won the MVP and won a championship.
But I'm looking at salaries right now. No disrespect, like great. Why is Jimmy Butler the tied for 5th highest paid player in the NBA?
Yeah, right. Because Miami was just like, well, you're our guy. And look, Jimmy was great in the playoffs. He actually did take your team to the finals. Like, he's even probably more one of the understandable ones. But there are guys making a ton of money.
Carl Towns is top 10. Like,
right.
Again, these are all all-stars. Great, not taking anything away from these guys, but I agree with what you're saying. Like,
Minnesota just traded Cat and got better.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like,
exactly.
If you have a question of a guy that you might get better because you trade him for Julius Randle. Don't pay him that much in the first place.
Yeah.
You probably made a mistake. And then they keep giving, like Devin Booker just got an up 3 years before his contract expired. They renegotiated his deal to give him more money out of loyalty. The league doesn't really reward loyalty all that much.
Yeah.
You know, players want to play, teams have the money and they have the leverage. So,
like, I feel like there's only maybe 3 to 5 players in the NBA that are like, if we have them on our team and we just do the like most minimal amount of work to put a roster around them, we can make the finals. Yeah. And I feel like those are the players.
Those are the true max guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like Devin Booker's not that.
No.
Jokic is that. Shea's probably that. Giannis is definitely that. Luka might be that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think you get pretty thin pretty quickly. And Alex, to go back to your question of how we pay role players differently, well, where it hurts is these guys who are actually pretty good players who you see signing the minimum all over the NBA. Mm-hmm. You see guys like Gary Trent Jr., who's a good player, only being able to find $2.5 million.
Yeah.
Like, he should be making 8 to 10.
Yes.
But because that $8 to $10 million has been artificially tacked on to a max player who's not worth that extra 8 to 10, but they pay him because that's what the max says you have to, he gets the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part.
Next up from Sad Jazz fan. Do you think it's strange that Hardy only named Kessler when asked about players improving on defense? I remember this. I don't think it was strange. I think he said even Walker has to improve his defense.
Yes, he did.
Pointing out Walker's our best defensive player, but even he has to get better.
I agree. That's how I read it as well.
Yeah.
And then he also said all the perimeter players, which is everybody else around him.
Yes.
But where do you build your defense? You build your defense at the basket and out. So the Jazz can change their identity most quickly with Walker becoming Rudy Gobert-esque.
Yes.
And becoming a true, not just shot blocker, but stalwart defensive player, which Will also said, I've seen him do it. I know he can do it, but he's got to be more than just a shot blocker. So how does he take that step? That's going to be big for him. And then, you just can't have a bunch of sieves on the perimeter that just let everybody go into Walker. Like, one of the better ways you could help Walker is not make him not just the last line of defense, but the only line of defense.
Yeah.
Every single trip down the floor. That would help him a lot. It wasn't just him. And you know what? He did call out Ace.
Yes.
He said specifically, we want Ace to be a good defensive player and learn how to use his length and his athleticism because he closes space so quickly. He could be a true star defender. And you know what? You bring Taylor back again. They're not judging Taylor on basketball this year, but Taylor's going to be in that convo. I think you're going to have Cody in that conversation. And then they want to see all the young guards play. I mean, they want to see all the guards, Keontae, Walt, Isaiah, really start to lock up, really start to pay attention on that end of the floor.
Yeah. I believe the last question here from Jesse. What was the most candid answer you heard today? And then in your history covering the Jazz, what's the most candid answer you've heard a player give?
I mean, Walker being frustrated is very candid.
Oh, yeah. I would say.
Kevin Love talked about his dad dying, which was emotional and certainly, totally understandable and really human. Candid moments today. Those are probably the top ones.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think
I would agree.
Historically, the most candid. You know what was interesting last year? This will always stick with me. Was Oscar Tshiebwe. We talked to him the day Dikembe Mutombo died. Mm-hmm. They're both from Cameroon.
Yeah.
And you just like talk about, I mean, well, Oscar truly is the best dude.
Yeah.
He's just truly the best person who's ever lived. Like, you hope he makes $1 trillion because if you gave him as much money as you could, he would spend it for good in the best way he could.
Yeah.
Like, it would truly go to the place it should go, where whatever that is. I don't know.
Yeah.
He would know, which is cool about Oscar. He was just like, he just talked about how he handled it and how he dealt with it, and not just like, not sad, like really human. So maybe that's probably something that would stand out to me. Man, that's a good question. You just put me on the spot with that. Let me think back. You know, you don't remember this. Trey Burke. Do you know the Trey Burke controversy?
Maybe.
His photo leak.
Oh.
He had a DM leak.
Yeah.
That no one wants to have leaked the day before media day. And he had to address it.
Yeah.
That was awkward. That was funny. Poor Jazz PR people just being like, come on, man. It's like, I think it was his second year. Maybe it was his rookie year in the NBA. I can't remember, but he had a photo come out. It was really tough. Sorry, don't look it up. So you're going to see Google spike. What the analytics doing on Trey Burke tweets? Google image search. So that was a weird one. You know what I mean? And I don't remember him necessarily answering it particularly well. He was a young kid, and I'm sure he was mortified, as one would be.
Yes.
So anyways, they're funny. Media Day's funny. Nothing like that this year. You know what I mean? Nothing to explain away. Nothing, no awkward, like, why did you get a DUI?
Yeah.
You know, we had to ask Malik Beasley, like, hey, why did you pull a gun on that family that one time? You know what I mean? It's like, well, they pulled into my driveway. It's like, you know, and he was great about it.
Yeah.
And we actually think we talked to him. This is after he signed, so I don't think it was quite a Media Day thing, but it was similar. It was like, yeah, man, what's the deal? Like, you're a good player. Why can you not keep your head on straight? And he gave a good answer. He was just like, I got to be better. I got to like take it seriously. Al Jefferson got a DUI and talked about how personally embarrassed he was and how much he embarrassed his family, specifically his grandma. He's like, I'm not that guy. I'm really not that person. So for that to happen is really miserable for me. And I thought that was really interesting. So sometimes, obviously, sadly, it comes from the worst situation, right? It's the worst thing that happens to somebody that they have to answer for. And answering to a room full of strangers that are the media is awkward.
Yes.
It is part of the job because, like you said, we're painting the picture. We're telling the whole story that we can to kind of fill fans in and sell not just the product on the court, but the product off the court, which sells the product on the court and makes those guys money. It's all, you know, we're all clowns at the circus, but it's that stuff's hard. That stuff is personal for those players, I should say, and they've generally done a pretty good job.
Opposite end of the spectrum. A question from me for you. Was there a funny moment today that you could think of? I know last year there was a really funny moment.
What was it?
Jordan Clarkson. Remember? I think it was like, well, what have you been up to this summer? He was like, oh, nothing much. I did get into a bus crash though? Or
His then girlfriend, which apparently they're not together anymore, but her tour bus had an issue with the wheel or something, and they had to get off, and they were in some like small town, and had to hike it and get to a car.
Which isn't inherently a funny story, but just the way he said it was...
Well, Jordan's hilarious.
Yeah.
Jordan's really funny. Oh, I mean, Kevin Love was funny today. I thought Kevin Love was just in general funny.
Yeah.
Ace was in general very funny. Oscar, so I saw him downstairs. He's wearing blue jeans, a white button-up shirt, and a cowboy hat. He's just like totally playing Utah. He's just like, I've seen cowboy movies before, so I'm a Western guy now. Like, so he's really funny. Well, Oscar's just funny.
Yeah.
I thought George was funny today. Yeah. George Niang in our one-on-one was funny. The guys are funny. It's just that they're really enjoyable people.
It is a great group.
It's a good group. Yes. It's a young group. It's a funny group.
Yep.
I think they're going to play hard. I don't know if they're going to win a lot of games. I would bet against them winning a lot of games. But again, I think it's going to be a lot more enjoyable than it was last season.
Okay. Well, I think that's about it. No more questions.
Okay.
October 8th, the first preseason game, which is a little over a week away.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy. And then first game of the year, October 22nd, which is like, 3 weeks?
So. Yep. We're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the season's fully back. We're going to try and make sure we're recording every Monday. We have been. We've kind of been in and out.
Yeah.
Doing a solo show or two, but we're going to try and be back every week with you. So appreciate everyone who listens. I thought it was a fun media day. I think it's going to be a fun season to get into and a lot of storylines. There's a lot that we probably haven't even touched on that we will write about. If you want more coverage, you can find it on our YouTube page, KSL Sports, or you can read about it. I'll be writing it up all night, kslsports.com. We'll be back again next week.